And congratulations on getting this bill finally passed through Congress in a couple of hours. So let me ask you, these negotiations have been going on for months, but they still don't include some of those key sticking points, whether it's liability shield for companies or state and local government aid. So what's been done this time around that's better than what could have been achieved 9 months ago?
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, I think you could have had a different package as recently as the summer, a bipartisan package. But as you noted, Speaker Nancy Pelosi asked for almost $1 trillion for large states in the U.S. in the terms of additional funding. And Republicans wanted liability protection for nonprofits and for-profit companies in the U.S. who were trying to comply with the pandemic. This package is a balance. It helps our families with extended unemployment, economic stimulus payments for our families, rental assistance, which was not in the original CARES Act, which helps both landlords and tenants. And very importantly for the small business sector, it has an extension of the Paycheck Protection Program, deductibility for expenses connected with that program, and good terms for a second PPP loan if a business is still struggling.
So given that this is a much smaller package than we had originally anticipated, how much do you expect this to help Republicans in the Georgia Senate runoff in January?
Well, I think this is good for people in both parties. Our families, our businesses have been hurting since the late summer. This is something that we should have done, in my personal view, in September and October. And it's good to have it over the finish line. So to the extent that Republicans worked hard to get that done and completed, that's good for their campaigns. I think it would have helped both parties had it been done before the election. But Speaker Pelosi, in my view, didn't want to give Donald Trump any access to a victory before the election. So that's what puts us here the week of Christmas.
But is more stimulus going to be needed down the track? And by down the track, I mean potentially in March. It's not just Democrats and Republicans that disagree over this. A number of the guests we've been speaking to this morning say more will be needed. Is there another fight shaping up in the very near future?
Well, I think doing this in stages is what makes sense to me. We've added a great deal of flexibility for our governors to spend the CARES Act money that they got in 2020 all the way through 2021. There's significant support both for healthcare providers, educational institutions, transit, highways. This is a very large, robust package. I want to see the reaction to the economy from both this stimulus work and the reaction to the vaccines as they roll out. And it'll give us a chance to reassess it in the March, April, and early May timeframe.
It certainly was large, 5,593 pages. I know one of your colleagues in Congress described this bill as a monstrosity. Were you able to read all of it? Does anybody know what's in there completely?
Well, I stayed focused on the coronavirus portion because that's the new language. The appropriations for 2021 spending have gone through our committees for the past 6 months. 10 of those 12 bills have already been voted on the House floor. So a lot of this language that makes up this bill is language that's already been approved through the House, and therefore it didn't get the attention that the coronavirus sections of the bill did.
What do you need to see in the next package for it to get your vote?
Well, I think the important thing is to assess what we do need at that time. Let's see how the economy continues to perform. Let's see how the public health crisis begins to decline. Let's see the response to the American people and the economy to widely available vaccines and inoculations, and let's assess what we need to do at the time.
This package right now also includes billions of dollars in removing possible spying equipment coming from the likes of perhaps Huawei and ZTE as well. How in line are you with those provisions, especially when it comes to pushing back on China?
Well, the Congress on a bipartisan basis has very concerned about China not playing by the trade rules, the diplomatic rules, the technology rules, the intellectual property rules. So we've seen in a number of bills, including our recent National Defense Authorization Bill and in this appropriations package, bills that strengthen America's ability to counter those forces by the Chinese government, whether it's in 5G or in some other way from a defense and a technology and a trade perspective.
Congressman, I also know you've been following closely the Russian hack and have some thoughts on that. I do wonder, are there comments about the president regarding this hack being the work of China really helpful to the process of getting to the bottom of it and mitigating the damage?
Well, Congress is very concerned and consistently concerned about cyber threats. We have a significant fusion center in this country that the FBI, our government intelligence agencies, and the private sector share information about potential hack threats across the networks, both public and private in the U.S. So we know this is a priority. We know we want to get to the bottom of this. And I agree with both leaders in the legislative branch and in the executive branch, both the Trump administration and the incoming Biden administration, that there will be a price paid by attempting this hack by the use of sanctions or counter forces in the cyber arena.
We have seen a lot of confusion over the weekend coming from the White House on who perpetrated these attacks. What do you expect to see in the incoming Biden administration when it comes to strategies to deal not only with Russia, but also China?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, cyber threats in this country are not limited to the Russians. The Chinese, the North Koreans, the Iranians all participate actively in proactive cyber attacks in the private and public sector around the world. I think, again, on the intelligence basis, we need to assess what changes and strategies we need to take. And if that requires funding or changing direction by the Congress, we need to stand ready on a bipartisan basis to support that effort.